What's up, everybody, and welcome to Thy Grindhouse Syndicate 1666. I am your host, a hag in the woods that everyone hates, and that is my co-host, the one and only, the Prince of Darkness, the Presidente of Hell, Satan. And we hope you brought your straw brooms and an unhealthy lack of hygiene, because today we are going way back in time to cover Part 3 of the Fier Street Trilogy, 1666. And we will be returning to 1994 to wrap up this amazing set of films. So buckle up, it's going to be a long one. It's the grand finale of all these awesome killers, and it's going to be a good time.
Man, I'm pretty stoked when I got Satan for the intro.
There you go.
I'm stoked on that. That's the coolest one I've ever got. You just make me Satan every episode.
You gotta say Satan?
Yeah, I'm not gonna try that, but every time I try an accent, it comes out as an English accent. Every time.
Well, this one's kind of, it's like more Irish, but it's not too far off that. But
old English.
I'm really happy we did these. Like I said, I always wanted to talk about them for a really long time. They pay homage to so many other iconic horror films. There's so many little details and Easter eggs. We didn't even get them all in 3 episodes, which is surprising.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack.
I am a little sad it's coming to an end, but we must move on. I will say, though, I am tired of researching this movie. I've spent 3 weeks reading everything I can possibly come across with this movie. So I'm sad that we're not going to talk about it anymore, but I'm happy that I don't have to read about it anymore.
Yeah, Netflix doesn't give us any special features.
No.
Netflix.
No, and they don't give us any budget shit or anything either.
Yeah, so it's all back on the grind. Gotta dig deep.
Yeah, this is a part 3, so if you haven't listened to part 1 or 2 yet, I would pause here and go listen to those. But if you've been with us along for the ride, here we are. We're at the finale. This is it. Episode 3. But first, if you want to stay up to date on what is going on with us or the show, talk about or submit your movie request, or just say hey, you can always find us at one of our social media accounts or our official website at Grindhouse.Horror.Pod.com. Facebook at the Grindhouse Syndicate Horror Podcast, Instagram at Grindhouse.Syndicate.Horror.Pod, and many more, which you can find links for in the show notes as always. And please subscribe or follow for alerts on new episodes. And if you really love us and don't want us to piss off Satan, give us a review. Is there anything you want to talk about before we jump in this episode?
So, did you see that new trailer for The Crow?
Yeah, I did. You mean Joker?
Jared Leto
Yeah.
in the Crow, the methed out, pill popping white boy with tattoo on their face. That's the trendy thing that's in.
You mean the Crow, Pete Davidson?
Yeah, pretty much. Except Pete Davidson's funny at least.
This guy might be funny. I haven't seen the movie yet.
I'm surprised Bill Skarsgård did this. He just doesn't seem like he doesn't ever play like trashy face tattooed. No offense to anybody with face tattoos, but if you're a SoundCloud rapper and you have face tattoos and you pop perks, we may be talking about you.
Maybe it was for the pay. Maybe he got just like a huge check. We don't know.
Yeah, he had to get to. I thought you said the bay.
No, yeah, for the bay.
I thought you were trying.
He did it for the bay.
Did it for
Where
his
he's from.
bay. She's a big fan.
Oh,
of
you
The
meant
Crow.
bay like a lover.
Yeah, I thought you were trying to be like slang.
No, I was doing like the bay where he's from. That's what I thought you meant.
Is he from
Man,
the
this
bay?
turned into a fucking disaster.
Well, you know what? If you've seen the trailer, the movie's probably going to be a disaster too. It looks like a total action movie. Looks like
Total action movie.
I don't know how to explain it. Does not look as good as the original Crow, and they didn't even give him long hair. What the fuck were they thinking?
That was my first complaint. No long hair.
It's like making a Dave Grohl movie and giving him short hair. You just the fucking Crow.
Dave Grohl with a fade.
Yeah.
Ew.
And tattoos on his face.
Yeah. All right, here we go. So Fear Street Part 3, 1666 is a 2001 American supernatural horror film directed directed and written by, dude, I feel like I've said the same thing over and over again.
Maybe you should change it up.
Directed and written by Lee Janiak and is based on the Fear Street book series by R.L. Stine, just like it was in the last 2 episodes. It is the third and final installment in the Fear Street trilogy. It stars Kiana Mandera, Ashley Zuckerman, Gillian Jacobs, Olivia Scott Welch, and Benjamin Flores Jr. The film follows the origins of the Shadyside Curse in the mid-17th century and the survivors in the 1994 who tried to put an end to it. Filming for the trilogy took place back-to-back from March to September 19th in Georgia, with the intention of a theatrical release in June of 2020.
Do you know what day in March it started? Does it tell you? Did you know we have a thing with accidentally doing shows and episodes on like anniversaries?
Oh, I'm sure it started today.
Yeah.
Or yesterday or tomorrow. Like we always hit like right before or right on the anniversary. Yeah. Yeah.
If only the show could play the lottery.
Yeah, so however, due to COVID, it was delayed. COVID fucked everything up. And eventually, Chairman Entertainment, who produced the film, sold the rights to Netflix in August of 2020. You know, I should have just cut this from the other episode and just pasted the audio in here.
Yeah. Or just told people to go back and listen to the other 2.
Well, I did, but okay, so you're getting the I'm tired of reading the same fucking thing over and over again on this part 3. This part 3 is crazy.
Somewhere somebody's like, I've already listened to this fucking episode.
Yeah, probably.
God damn it.
This is why we're switching it up so much. Yeah, so Fear Street Part 3, 1666 premiered at the Los Angeles State Historic Park on July 14, 2021, and was released by Netflix on July 16, 2021. It received generally positive reviews from critics who described the film as an effective conclusion to the trilogy. They said, this'll do. I like it.
This'll do. It was very effective.
Yep, that's how I feel about it. It was effective.
I agree.
It affected me greatly.
It didn't hit like part 2. Didn't have the nostalgia of part 1, but it was very effective.
It was effective. All right, so ratings. The ratings for this, and I will include the 1990. We'll do the ratings for the whole fucking trilogy right here. I'll just do them all.
What?
Yep.
But
no, not our ratings.
Oh, okay. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Wait, I'm switching it up that much.
No, not doing.
Why
it
are we
that
doing
much.
that before the plot?
Nope. So Rotten Tomatoes, 94 got an 84, 78, 87, and 1666 got an 88. IMDb 6.2, a 6.7, and a 6.6. Letterboxd got a 3, a 3.4, and a 3.3 out of 5. And the average audience rating, a 4.2, a 4.5, and a 4.4.
Seems like that overwhelmingly people like this one over the first one.
Yeah. Yeah, and the Rotten Tomatoes, this is actually the highest rated one.
Yeah, that's crazy because part 2 is almost it's just, I'm going to say it's almost a perfect movie. I've already said it in the last episode. It's 4.9 for me. It's a great fucking movie.
And the IMDb here are so close, with 1978 getting a 6.7 and 1666 getting a 6.6. And then the same thing for the Letterboxd scores. We get a 3.4 and a 3.3. And then average audience ratings a 4.5 and a 4.4. So essentially, everyone said these movies are damn near just as good as each other.
And I think that's what happens when you film them back to back like that. You don't get like a different director and different writers that come in and completely have a different cinematographer and a different feel to the movie. And I think that was a huge, huge benefit to them when they did this movie. I agree. I think they're all solid. They're all really close. besides part 2, which is just super amazing. Just one step above, but I think part 1 and part 3 are really close. But we'll get more into that.
Yeah, if you would like to watch this movie, you can find them on Netflix, of course. And nowhere else, because Netflix won't let them go. They won't put them on DVD, Blu-ray. They fucking suck. All right, so plot. So once again, we get our previously on, and we see that back in 1978, during the Camp Nightwing massacre, Sarah Fier's skeletal hand was found down in the cave. This is when a young Ziggy said, "What's that?"
Yeah,
A
what
fucking
could
hand.
that be? Is that a giant rabbit's foot? The fuck could that be?
Yeah, the Berman sisters attempted to end the curse on Shady's side by reuniting the hand with the body, but were not successful in locating Sarah Fier's actual burial site. But in the current time, 1994, Dina, Sam, and Josh find Sarah Fier's body in an unmarked grave. They link up with a grown-up Ziggy Berman and learn about the hand. Dina attempts to reunite the hand with the body, but when she does, she gets immediately transported into the real Sarah Fier's body in 1666 to relive the events that started the curse and the feud between Shadyside and Sunnyvale. So that is our rundown through the part 1 and part 2. So we start off in 1666, where Sarah Fier is delivering some little baby piggies. And as she is looking into this trough of water, we see that Dina is Sarah Fier. So to us, the viewer, Sarah Fier looks like Dina. But to everyone else in the story, including herself, she looks like Sarah Fier, which is, basically this teenage white girl.
Yeah, this is just a movie showing us that Dina is reliving her footsteps.
Yes.
Sarah Fier is showing her what the fuck actually happened.
Yeah, Dina is seeing Sarah's story through the eyes of Sarah. And we see that Sarah's teenage younger brother looks like Josh, which in reality doesn't make sense because Sarah is white, Josh is black.
Yeah, I think they did that for the continuity purposes for the actors. That makes no sense.
Matter of fact, we'll bring this up now. A lot of the actors from part 1 and 2 play these 1666 characters. And the reason why is because it is to show that these are Shadyside and Sunnyvale characters. These are the characters' ancestors. So some of these bloodlines have been really a part of this story for generations, basically from the beginning of this story.
Except in the case of Sarah Fier, which is
Well,
not.
she dies. The Fier bloodline actually would die because
I know, but I'm saying Dina's not playing her for ancestry purposes, and Josh is definitely not playing her brother for ancestry purposes.
Yep, that's not accurate. So, but yeah. So yeah, Sarah's brother Henry, they have kind of like a similar relationship as Dina and Josh. They also have a similar situation with their parents. The mom is not in the picture, and they both live with their father. But we see that their luck is a lot different here. Sarah says that she is going to be taking one of the piglets to a man named Solomon Good, who would be Nick Good's great-great-grandfather. So the Fiers and the Goods were actually on very good terms at the beginning.
Would it be his great-great-grandfather?
I don't know.
It would be.
I just put a couple greats in there. I
Okay.
didn't fucking do the math.
I didn't know if you read that because I'm like, God, it's got to be more than that. It's like fucking it's like 330 years.
I think that's actually how Dina says it when she's talking to Josh later on. She says his great-great-grandfather.
Those Goods live a long life.
They do.
That's what happens when you
got the
make
luck.
deals.
So good on terms, in fact, that Sarah's father wants Sarah to marry Solomon. And Sarah doesn't want to, but it's not like she's mad about it. She just kind of laughs it off because they're actually really good friends.
Yeah, this was a much, much different time.
Yeah.
The 1600s, when you wanted your daughter to go get married to somebody who I guess could be successful. Nowadays, he's like a grown man.
Yeah, he's had a family.
a wife, and a kid that died. Like nowadays, Nobody's telling their teenage daughter, like, yeah, you need to marry 37-year-old Barry down the road.
Well,
He's got a nice house. Have you seen his car?
well, back then it was like, well, he's got to be starting a second family.
It's like, Sarah, we're tired of being broke. It's the only way to
We
get out
are.
of being broke in 1600s. To fuck somebody who's not.
What do you want? Stop it.
Please, Lord, tell me
Allow
we're
you to
recording.
recharge once in a while.
I took a nap for that.
Okay, I don't need you, Siri. Thank you.
Don't hurt Siri's feelings.
It was nice for her to check in. So as Sarah is walking to Solomon's, we get some scenic shots of the original town before it was split into Shadyside and Sunnyvale. We also see Sarah walk past her best friend Lizzie, and they have like some kind of secret saying that they say to each other, like as Sarah's passing by. And what they say is, a full moon rises before nightfall. And then the other one says, a good night to enjoy the fruits of the land, which pretty much means they plan to party in the woods tonight. And if you're a Dazed and Confused fan, it pretty much means party at the Moon Tower.
Party at the Moon Tower.
So she also says this to her other best friend, Isaac. And we also see that all the younger kids in the little town are saying this like local nursery rhyme. And they say, Pastor Miller went blind as a bat, tried to read the Bible, and his eyes went splat. Which kind of
a
become
bit of foreshadowing.
Yeah, it comes a little important later on. Then Pastor Miller's daughter, Hannah, walks over to Sarah and tells her, party at the Moon Tower. And then she tells Sarah that her and Lizzie are going to get some berries, a.k.a. 1666 drugs.
Those shrooms.
Yeah.
Glad to know that teenagers enjoy tripping balls even in the 1600s.
Yeah, they're going to get them from the hag that lives in the woods, but there's definitely like some flirting going on with these two. Like these two want to fuck.
Yeah, this is the part where you learn that Sarah and Dina have a lot in common.
Yes. So a lot of what the characters and the relationships and even some of the things that happen to them mirror what 1994 was. Like we see a lot of that kind of stuff in this story.
Hannah's mom is like doesn't like Dina or Sarah. Is very similar. But I will say, having lesbian stuff going on with the pastor's daughter, that's pretty risky.
Very
in the
risky.
1600s. That's punishable by death in the 1600s.
Yeah, so, and it's pretty much like a direct replication of part 1 and part 2. So you got Dina and Sam, like aka Sarah and Hannah. You got Lizzie and Isaac, which are pretty much the Kate and Simon, and Josh is Henry, and so on. So it's kind of the same group of characters, but they're just different setting, different names. And then Sarah kind of runs into Thomas, a.k.a. Mad Thomas, who is the human version of a wet fart.
That's pretty accurate. I know it's the 1600s, but goddamn, has this dude ever washed his hair?
Dude.
He is like this through the whole movie. Like, it looks like his hair ain't never seen water before.
He came out of the outhouse, and he immediately started trying to touch Sarah's face with his poop fingers.
Yeah.
That's so fucking gross.
And TP probably wasn't very much a thing then.
It didn't look like it. But yeah, he's very obviously into Sarah Fier, who wants nothing to do with him.
And not his toothbrush. He's not into that.
No, his teeth are fucking so nasty. He looks like he has black licorice in his teeth.
I don't think that you could possibly ruin your teeth by his age. Like that bad. Without meth. Did he invent meth?
Yes. That's why he's Mad Thomas.
Mad Thomas.
Yeah.
Mad Thomas smoked too much of the mad pipe and went fucking crazy.
So Sarah, after a long walk through the woods, finally reaches Solomon's cabin. We see that Solomon has obviously had to bury his wife and child. Do you find it weird he put their graves at the entrance to his place?
No, didn't really think about that. It's the 1600s. It's buried wherever they found their shovel.
I mean, he had all that room. Like, I would want that to be in a more private area than where everybody who comes to my house has to walk right past them.
It's the 1600s. He's probably going to have like 4 people at his house ever.
But anyway, we learn that Solomon has moved all the way out here because he strongly believes that the land is fertile and he can grow a lot of food. He has also fallen on some hard times as of late, and his brother wants him to give up the farming and move back to the settlement. So this is very interesting because here we see that the goods are the ones having the bad luck and lack of success here.
Yeah, he's having a really fucking hard time. You almost feel bad for the guy. First time watching this movie, I did feel bad for the guy. I'm like, the dude's moved here. He moved away out of the town into the woods a little bit to try to make a better living for his family. He loses his wife and child. He's having a rough fucking go at life.
Yep, it's hard out there for a pimp and trying to get the money for the rent. So later that evening, we see Sarah, Lizzie, and Hannah going to the hag's home to pick up the berries. The way they are describing the berries is basically like shrooms. And apparently the old hag is also a witch. So one thing that I have overlooked every other time is they actually mentioned that when Solomon Good's wife and child got sick, he actually went to this witch for help. And I don't know why every other time I've watched this movie, that just passed right over my head. But that explains something that we find out later on.
That's how he knows the existence of thy witch.
Thy witch. So when they arrive, the witch isn't there. And of course, they decide to break in and steal the berries because Dina would approve. Dina's there in spirit.
It's Kate, too. I mean, Kate's like every place Kate's at, she's the drug lady.
But Dina's the breaking in lady.
She is.
But yeah, Sarah finds a spell book, and the drawing of the skeleton in the robe kind of looks like the Skull Mask Killer. And I don't know if that's meant to look like that, but that's the whole costume, except for the hat, looks very much like Skull Mask.
Good observation. Thought it looked like a skeleton, like a skeleton
in a robe
drawing.
So she reads some demon names from the book and finishes off with a Satan. And just then, the witch surprises her from behind and tells them to get the fuck out of her domicile. Next, we are at a 1600s rager out in the woods with all the settlement's teenagers, and Lizzie starts passing out the magic berries. And I wonder, did anybody ask them berries got fentanyl in them? That's a big deal.
Before the fentanyl days.
Like, hey, these berries safe? They ain't got fent in them, do they?
Yeah. It's like 4 kids actually died at this party. We just didn't hear about it.
Yeah. So now that everyone is fucked up and dancing with no music, so they're like dancing around, and you realize there's no way they have any music out there. There's no radios back then. There was nobody out there with a guitar. There was just fucked up dancing to nothing in the woods, like the sound of fucking crickets, which is weird.
Yeah,
weird when you think about it.
Thinking about it, it's the 1600s, man. They had to get by with what they had. There just happened to be no music.
So this dude named Caleb tries to sexually assault Hannah, and of course Sarah calls him out and ends up slapping him in front of everyone. And then she points out to everyone his major boner sticking through his pants.
This is when you realize that it is not easy to hide a boner in 1600 clothes. Like, you don't have any way to hide your hard on with your cloth pants that you put together in your house.
But he didn't. But did he not notice he had it? Like, he's just letting it pitch a tent right there with everybody. Like,
I don't know. He may have got hard off of that slap. he may be a beta. He may be a sub. He may have been like, I really like getting hit by Sarah. That was kind of hot.
It's weird because
everybody thought it was him having a this is like Adam trying to hide a boner from Eve to his little grass,
to his leaf.
And then on top of that, she makes a comment about how small his dick is. So that's pretty bad. That's why you don't rape.
Yeah. So Sarah and Hannah sneak off into the woods for some private time. They begin making out and touching each other. Things get hot and heavy when Sarah gets in the mood for some Mexicans because she goes straight for that taco.
The fish taco.
She goes straight for it. Like she was like a pro. She went straight for it. Like there was no like maybe let me see. How do you feel about this? She just literally popped that skirt up and went to town. I was like, have you done this before?
She's been practicing munching carpets in her head for a long time. And you know it was long carpets back then.
Yeah, and then suddenly they hear someone run off from behind a tree, lickety split.
Lickety split. I'm split.
The girls run back to the settlement and are freaking out that someone saw them, which is understandable because back then, this is a huge fucking problem.
Especially with the pastor's daughter.
Yeah. So Hannah, she says that they'll be hung for this, but Sarah doesn't care because much like Dina, it doesn't matter what terrible shit is going on around her as long as she's in love.
She finally got to taste what Busch Light tastes like.
and then we see Mad Thomas watching them from afar while diabolically laughing. What the fuck is his problem? What's he? I guess he's like, I got them bitches now.
He's like when you're in like third grade and you see some like your older cousin or something, like teenage cousin. You think it's so funny. You've seen somebody kiss for the first time. Like, bro, what's wrong with you? It's the meth.
That's the meth.
It's the meth. He was probably back there digging a hole, looking for the radiator.
Tucker. The next morning, Sarah comes to find that her dog is missing, and while looking around the house for him, Hannah shows up to tell her that there is something wrong with her father, the town pastor. We see that he is just sitting still on a bench whispering weird shit, like cryptic shit, and then we see a fly buzzing very, very close to his face. Kind of already know what that means. Hannah also tells her that according to her mother, she is not allowed to see Sarah any longer because she suspects our wickedness. Well, that's because you guys did a terrible fucking job hiding it. Like, literally.
Yeah. Really, really, really bad job at hiding it. Also, for those really paying attention, how is the fly flying around the pastor if Sarah has not made a deal with the devil yet?
Oh, yeah. So, and just then, Hannah's mom comes bursting in, and of course, Sarah and Hannah are fucking holding hands. This is why everyone knows, because you guys can't literally be in the same room without essentially touching each other or flirting with each other. Like, if you are living in a time where someone is literally going, not someone, the fucking town itself is going to murder you for liking someone else, you should probably do a better job keeping it quiet.
Yeah.
Just my assumption. If you want to live, to keep doing your thing.
Yeah, I agree. I have nothing to add to that.
I mean,
if you really want to play with scissors, do it somewhere safe.
I mean, I feel like at this point they'll be like in the town square, like by the well, like making out and be like, "Did someone see us? Yeah, someone fucking seen you. You're terrible at this."
Caleb over there jacking off in the corner.
Yeah. But yeah, so she flips out. She throws Sarah on the floor and slaps Hannah across the face. She then tells her that Mad Thomas snitched them out to everyone this morning. Wasn't this morning when he was like brushing his teeth, that's for sure.
No, he never went to bed, so it was really, really early in the morning.
Yeah, so the whole town knows about your wicked, wicked gay love. Thanks, Mad Thomas. Hannah's mom then throws Sarah out the door into the yard, and when Sarah gets up, she sees that the whole town is staring at her. They're probably like, yeah, we knew that shit was coming. So she goes home and is then confronted by her father. I think this is an important scene here because her dad looks down and depressed, and he finishes off a bottle of alcohol that he has been drinking. And we are now starting to see the same behavior we see normally in Shadyside.
And Dina's dad.
Yeah. So this is really the first sign that the curse has started. This is what this behavior is a non-stop through Shadyside all the way into 1994.
I think this is also something interesting. So Sarah, at this point in the story, you don't really know like why she curses the town or becomes a witch or whatever, but it is it is very known at this point that she is different. She's always been a little different. She don't know why, but she's different. I think Sarah's mom was a witch. I don't think she was a bad witch. I think she was a good witch. Kind of like the hag in the woods wasn't an evil witch. But if you hear her dad talks about, your mom is the one who insisted us settling down here. She said she didn't know why, but she felt it. She felt it in the land, that it was prosperous. She felt it in the trees. She felt it in the lake. That is a very witchy thing.
That's a good point. Yeah. I never really thought much about her mom because she's not really in the story at all. But yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, and I think that passed down to Sarah. And I think that's kind of what led Sarah kind of down the path. When the beginning, when she's in the witches, the old hags, and she gets in the book, and the old witch tells her, like, it can sense. Even Mad Thomas says multiple times, like, I can sense something evil in you. I can sense something different in you. I think she has a little bit of that blood from her mom.
Well, I think that is a really good theory that's going to play into something coming way down the road. So we also see that all of their food has suddenly gone bad and the town is just in chaos. And the mama pig ate all the piglets. So yeah, bad luck has come uponeth the future site of Shadyside. Mad Thomas is playing the part of the doom and gloom preacher, saying that the devil has come because of all the sins in the settlement, and then a group of men pull up the bucket from the town well to find Sarah's dog dead hanging by the rope. So Sarah heads back home to kind of like escape the craziness, and a little bit later, Solomon Good shows up. She invites him in and tells him about her and Hannah in the woods, and then all this like crazy shit that has happened since then. And she starts to wonder if Mad Thomas is right and maybe her and Hannah are the cause of all this. Solomon is like, no, bitch, that's dumb. Your thing with Hannah is just like a phase, like you just being young. And she's like, no, it's not. I'm like really into her. And Solomon's like, oh.
Yeah, Solomon's like, oh, come on, Sarah. It's 1666. We all have a little bit of gay curiosity in us. This is just playing out a vicarious desire.
So I think this is another important scene that becomes really more obvious later on because Solomon actually does not look pleased to hear about this.
Yep. I put in my notes, he looks quite fucking disappointed to hear that it was not just a curious mistake. It's very obvious.
Yeah. But Solomon still supports her. He's got her back. He is very open-minded for a white Christian man in the 1600s. But they are interrupted by a scream coming from a mob outside. So everyone is gathered outside of the church. The pastor is inside with most of the town's children, and the doors are barricaded. Solomon and some others break down the side door. He grabs a pitchfork and heads inside to find all the children sitting in the pews very still, and the pastor standing at the... Is that thing called a podium? What is that? What is a thing?
I thought that was the pew.
No, the pew is the rose?
The pew was the thing that the church people preach at.
I don't know whatever the thing.
You can tell we're pros in church.
Whatever the thing, I thought it was like a podium or something. I don't know. Whatever the thing that's
a podium. They give medals away to whoever donates the most that week to the church. Who's buying the pastor a new car?
Pretty much. So, okay, whatever the thing the preacher stands at, and he's mumbling weird shit. As Solomon walks down the aisle, he comes upon a pile of fucking eyeballs. He looks up at Pastor Miller to see that he has gouged out his own eyes and went full on crazy. He looks like the guy from Event Horizon.
Yeah. That's good connection.
So
may have been done on purpose too.
Solomon looks around to see that the pastor has murdered all of the children and removed their eyes as well. A bunch of townspeople finally burst through the door and rush in to get their kids and start losing their fucking minds. We also see here that unfortunately Sarah's younger brother Henry Josh is also among the victims. Rest in peace, Henry Josh.
And then everybody starts yelling witchcraft. And I'm not going to lie, this fucking pastor still being alive with his eyes gouged out and all the kids with their eyes gouged out, I may have been thinking witchcraft too at this point. That's pretty rough.
So Pastor Willis then goes to stab Sarah, but Solomon hits him with a pitchfork to the gut before he could kill her. So I think this kind of starts the tradition of the goods killing the possessed murderer and saving everyone. Because this tends to happen with the main good.
Yeah, that's a small detail. That's not super obvious, but yeah, this is the first time.
Yeah, and, like you said, everyone's immediately witchcraft. And, I was thinking about it, and I was just like, people back then were just like, my cousin's husband's brother up in Salem told me about witchcraft. Like, I know all about it. Like, anybody can catch witchcraft. Like, you gotta wear masks and social distance so you don't spread the witchcraft.
If somebody had a silent fart in church and nobody would claim it, it was witchcraft back then.
Yeah, I mean,
everything was witchcraft. But this would have legit freaked me the fuck out.
We got to do a 2-week quarantine until the witchcraft dies down.
Everybody put your witchcraft masks on.
Wash your hands so you don't spread witchcraft. I mean, it's like everything back then that was slightly weird was immediately like somebody's doing witchcraft to cause this.
It's the religious effect.
So later on, there is like a town meeting, which is weird because it's in the same place the massacre just happened at.
It's the only pews or podiums that they have in the town.
Just do it outside.
Like, we have to do it here because we have to award Henrietta over here for donating the most to the church this week. So
come on up to the podium.
Spin the wheel.
Yeah, see if you're gonna get saved or not by Jesus. Spin the wheel. Maybe you will. Maybe you won't.
I guess it depends on how much you donated this week, doesn't it?
But they are like, we got to root out the evil that caused this. Solomon's like, I already killed the dude responsible. Like, what the fuck? And they are like, nah, Pastor Miller was the best. There's no way he would have ever done this unless he was possessed by evil. So Mad Thomas gets up there and puts Hannah and Sarah on blast to everyone. Isaac tries to calm the crowd down by explaining that they just drank a little and danced in the woods that night, and people are like, you sick bastard, dancing brings the devil. They shot him down like immediately. He's just like, dude, we were just partying. And they're just like, you know what that brings.
Yeah. Don't you dare be partying.
You know what fun brings the devil.
That's how it was back then. Man.
Oh, yeah.
It's just fun was evil.
Yep.
Boring and miserable was the godly way.
So the crowd wants blood and revenge on those who brought the devil to their door.
Not the guy who carved out all the eyes and his own eyes. Not that guy.
This scene reminds me of a modern day political rally.
Yeah.
This is where we have gotten, is where political rallies are very similar to this stuff.
They're like, God damn it, all the Biden supporters carved their eyes out of their head. This was you, Trump.
Yep.
It was Melina.
So Solomon tries to talk some sense into the crowd, basically like, unless you have proof of any of this, it's just bullshit. And then Caleb, a.k.a. embarrassed boner guy from the party, speaks up and says he has proof.
Bro, this guy is so fucking salty for having a small dick and getting called out for it. He's seen the chance to go up there and throw them under the bus when they said, but nobody's got proof. He's like, I got proof. I'm going to get these bitches back. I'm going to make sure they get hung from that tree for laughing at my small wiener.
He tells a story about how Hannah and Sarah came to him in the middle of the night, naked, lured him into the woods, and made him watch as they fucked the devil. And I gotta ask, how's that proof? I'd be like, no.
The devil, man. What do you mean?
Like, no. Okay, see, that's just another accusation. Like, do you know what the word proof means, Caleb?
They didn't know. They didn't know the difference back then.
I think this settlement needs less Bibles and more dictionaries. So then everyone starts saying that they have also seen Hannah and Sarah do this. What's sad is this shit happened in real life.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of different times.
Yeah, I thought about that every time I see this scene in this movie. I think how ridiculous this is because now all of a sudden everyone is like making up, like they're going along with this lie, even though just minutes before no one had anything to. They had was like, who did this? And now they're all like, oh yeah, I remember. They drug me out in the woods too, and it's sad because this actually happened to real people and got real people killed.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of mass delirium, and then a lot of people wanted to see. They believed it so much they were willing to lie to get their way. It's sad. Sad that there was a lot of young women and some young men who died this way.
So Hannah and Sarah attempt to escape the settlement with the townspeople chasing after them. Hannah falls down and gets caught and demands Sarah leave her. Sarah then disappears into the darkness. And you know what absolutely would not surprise me? If they were like, we should have sex with the witches against their will. Like, that'll show the devil.
Caleb would 100% be like, yes, let's do that. Let's rape them. Let's rape
That's
them.
what
and
I'm
show
saying.
them.
Because you see how
Yeah.
they're like, look for the witch's mark on on Hannah. And then they like start ripping her, and they're really just like trying to see her private parts is what they're looking at. And like I'm really surprised that they weren't like, yeah, let's do that. Like, oh, we'll just tell our wives God told us to.
Caleb pulled up in his lifted truck, jumped out with this tiny dick. It's like, all right, it's rape time.
So while the whole town is going house to house looking for Sarah, she is able to sneak into the church where Hannah is being kept. And she tells Sarah that she is to hang tomorrow morning. So Sarah decides to make her way to the hag's house in the woods and get her spell book to make a deal with the devil in order to save Hannah. But when Sarah arrives at the hag's shack, she finds it deserted, in disarray, and the box with the spell book is now empty. She also sees that there is blood on the box and the hag has been murdered. She runs to Solomon's and tells him about the murdered hag and the spell book. He says that he believes her and is willing to help. Then suddenly they are interrupted by a group of men from the town. Solomon instructs Sarah to hide as the men begin to search his place. She ends up in the basement, but as the men get closer, she goes deeper and deeper into the basement area where she eventually finds the motherfucking room with the witch's symbol carved into the floor. This is the same one that Alice and Cindy found in 1978.
Yeah, this my first time watching this movie threw me for a fucking loop. Did not see this coming.
Oh yeah. Yeah, this is because you really like Solomon. Like
Yeah,
he's like, because he reminds you of more of a person from our time where, they're just like, oh, somebody's not evil because they are homosexual or something. So he seems reasonable. He's not jumping to this conclusion like we need to murder these people because they brought the devil. Like he's the only one there trying to argue for their defense. And then this happens.
Yeah, and the guy that's playing him, which is Sheriff Nick Good, it's obviously he's playing his ancestor here, but he's not a bad character in part 1. And then the young version of himself is a good character in part 2. So you don't see, other than him lying at the end, you don't really see that this taking this twist at all. Solomon is probably, up until this point, one of the best characters in the movie.
Yeah, and what's weird is the first time I seen this movie, I did not realize that the guy who plays Nick is the same guy who plays Solomon, because Solomon seems like more bigger and more older, like a more rugged dude.
He looks like Jesus.
Yeah, he does.
He does.
And it just like it looks like him, but it doesn't look like him.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember if I noticed that the first time I seen that, but I definitely noticed it immediately this time.
Oh yeah.
But he looks like a completely different person. They went from like short-haired, clean-shaven cop to Jesus.
Yes. So Solomon finally tells the search party to hit the road. Sarah begins looking around this room where she finds a goat head and the hag's magic book. Solomon walks in the room and he and Sarah stare at each other for a moment. We then get a cutscene of Solomon conducting the ritual and making the deal with the devil. We see that the cave system just magically formed and Solomon killed the hag for the book. Oh, and it was Solomon that seen Hannah and Sarah fucking in the woods.
Him and, I would imagine, Mad Thomas. The whole town seen them fucking in the woods.
It depends on where you were that night.
Yeah. I wonder what would have happened if Sarah would have just thought quick on her feet and made a secondary deal with the devil before he got down there.
Outdealed him. I'll do it for cheaper.
Yeah.
I'll give you 2 people every time.
Yep.
So Solomon makes what I would say isn't a bad argument on his part.
No, I actually thought he had a really good point.
Yes.
It's as bad as you see what it turns into is horrible, but from his point of view,
I get it.
Yeah, I do. I get it.
So he basically says, I was tired of getting fucked over, watching everyone else have a good life and be successful, while I was doing the same shit and having terrible luck. He also says that those people in town suck, they treat people like us like shit, and they look down on us because we want more from the world besides going to church. And he tries to get Sarah to go along with it. He is definitely into her, and I definitely think he's was hoping to marry her at some point. And this is why when I talked about earlier, him being really bummed when he was like, oh, it's just a kind of a phase, and she was like, no, I'm really into her or whatever, and that's when he has that look of disappointment. But I think that's important because when he's seen them in the woods and then he has this conversation with her, it was when he's seen her in the woods, I think it kind of broke his heart. This was the last bad luck thing that he was going to take. I think that was the night he went and killed the hag and took the book and did the ritual when he seen her with Hannah. That's my opinion. I think that was it.
I think it happened after the conversation where she told him that it wasn't just a vicarious teenage thing, I'm actually into her. I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah, but weird stuff had started happening right before that conversation, which is why she's telling him that.
Yeah.
So that's why I think that night when he seen that, it was he was done. He was like, damn, I thought I was going to get with this girl. We always flirted around, and now I see her out here, with this woman. And I think he'd had it. I think that was it. I think he said, I'm going to fucking murder that bitch, get that book, and make the deal now.
Or did weird stuff start happening to Sarah because she got the witch's book that night and read through that passage right when the witch catches her? Did Sarah bring all this on?
I don't know.
Because I think Sarah was she has witch blood in her. And I think you're more than likely right, but I think it's also a possibility that her reading that entire passage, because she gets through to the end of the passage before she's interrupted, and that's when the witch says to her. And even before that, Mad Thomas says, I can sense the evil in you. I can sense it in you. I can smell it on you.
He's on meth, so we can't trust what he says.
He was right. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good point, though. I think regardless, he still thought once he did all this that he was going to be with her. I think he don't give a fuck about religion. He's not into all that. He's like, she's different too. I'm different. He's done come to terms with her liking chicks too. It's like, that's kind of hot. Think I can get down with that. Maybe she'll marry me.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was part of the reason that he did it is because he knew things were going to go to shit for them. And this would push her to him. He'd be out there fucking successful, killing it, growing goddamn corn crops in the I don't know where he was going to grow food. He lived in the woods. But anyway, I think that he was pretty much like everything's going to go bad for them over there, and she's going to, because he probably did think that this thing with Hannah was a phase. She's going to eventually see that being with me is a lot better, and I think that this was like a kind of this maybe that will push her over to me anyway.
I don't think that was his main reasons, and here's why. Because he already knew about the witch before he took his kids there. And the night they were partying in the woods, he was creeping around there already. I think he already had this plan, and he already had the thought of this plan in motion. Or why else would he have been creeping around the woods whenever he seen those two together? I think his really genuine bad luck, and he was tired of being poor and pushed around, and his family had died. I think he was already planning on doing this plan.
And I agree.
I think that was just a bonus.
No, I agree. I definitely think that this was, he had been wanting to do this, thinking about it. But I think that, I'm just saying that when he seen her in the woods that night, her and Hannah, that he was like, it's tonight. Like, it's happening. It's going down tonight. I'm doing it. But yeah, she's not feeling it, and she stabs Solomon in the stomach. She escapes down the cave just like Cindy and Alice did. Solomon begins to chase her. After they run through the cave for a bit, Solomon finally catches her. He tries once again to bring her to the dark side. She's not having it. He goes to stab her. She throws her hand up, and the knife goes through her wrist, almost cutting her hand off. Solomon grabs it while trying to hold her down, and during the struggle, her hand gets ripped off. This is why Sarah Fier is missing her hand.
Bro, you can tell Solomon just formed those tunnels with that ritual, because he looks lost as fuck when he's chasing her through there. He is not got acquainted with the area yet.
He probably doesn't know it's a big fucking symbol.
Yeah, I don't think he knows anything. One thing I thought about, I wish they would have added when all the shit started going down in the town, all the shit, and people started yelling witchcraft. I wish they would have added like an earthquake in there at some point.
Thought about that too, yeah. I thought you were going to say, that the tunnel should have had like those little, the things the mall said where it's like, you are here. You can find your way around.
That would have been really, really nice of the devil to put that there. But yeah, I don't think Satan was thinking that far ahead.
Satan. She knocks Solomon out and once again is able to escape. She finds an exit and it leads under a house. So this is obviously where the mess hall at Camp Nightwing is, because this is the same exit that Cindy took when she saved Ziggy. It's like literally how she climbs up and then how she kicks the fucking shit with her legs and busts through. It's the same exact thing as Cindy Berman.
Yeah.
So she kicks a hole in the floor and climbs up, only to realize that she is back in the church. So now we know that where the church is eventually becomes the mess hall of Camp Nightwing.
Yep, and also Sarah Fier, I think, was going to die anyway, because there's getting your hand amputated in 1600s probably had a pretty low survival rate, but when you rub that shit right down in the dirt right after,
ooh,
she's literally like not trying to hold that cut off hand up at all. She's just burying that shit in the dirt.
Well, they didn't really.
She was going to die anyway.
They didn't know about germs back then. I mean,
they probably knew if you had an amputation, the chance of they knew what infection was.
You know who don't know who germs is Mad Thomas. I don't think he believes in them.
Mad Thomas believes in them so much, he has built his immune system. He has spent his whole life building up the strongest immune system known to man by being just the nastiest motherfucker ever.
He's a human petri dish.
His hair is dripping of germs.
It's just dripping of everything.
That shit is the grossest hair I've ever fucking seen. Like, I don't normally pick up when somebody has like super greasy hair, but good God. I feel like he could have slicked it back and went straight into the like greaser era.
Yeah.
He could have slicked it right back and we could have jumped straight into Ruby Lane's story.
She opens the front door and goes to walk out, and even though there are some people like standing out there, no one really sees her but Hannah. And just as she goes to tell everyone about Solomon, he comes up behind her, grabs her hair, and yells to everyone he found the witch. So next, we find ourselves at the hanging tree. The crowd demands a confession before the hanging, so in order to save Hannah, Sarah admits a false confession that she practiced witchcraft, possessed the pastor, and possessed Hannah. Solomon grabs Hannah and sends her back to her mother, and then begins to wrap chains around Sarah. While he is doing this, Sarah looks at him and says that the truth will come out, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but the truth shall be your curse. She also says that she will shadow him forever, show them what you have done, and says she will never let him go. We then see the real Sarah Fier hung and buried under the hanging tree. Later on that night, her friends Lizzie, Hannah, Isaac, and Abigail dig her back up and decide to move her to a secret grave that only they know about. And in her place, they put a rock with the words, "The witch forever lives." This decision actually gets Cindy Berman and a bunch of other people killed.
Yeah. They were like, we don't care if she was a witch. She was our homie.
Yeah, the curse actually would have been ended in 1978 with Ziggy and Cindy when they returned the hand to the body.
I don't know. You think they would have maybe found the body when they were building the mall?
Um,
I mean, they
no.
didn't bury it very deep. It was like the saddest grave ever.
No, I think obviously the evil or the Satan or whatever here obviously protects all this from becoming a thing. One thing I did find out is when the Camp Nightwing massacre happened, the mayor actually had the camp tore down right after that and then allowed the mall to be built on top of it. So Camp Nightwing did not exist after the massacre. They tore it all down and built a mall over top of it.
Well, we know that happened at some point because of where the tree's at, but definitely didn't know it happened right after.
Yeah.
I wonder if the mayor was a
good? Probably. I can't remember if it said or not, but yeah, probably.
He definitely wasn't a good mayor.
But yeah, so that is the end of 1666. That is Sarah Fier's story. And we are now jolted back to Dina at Sarah Fier's grave in 1994.
You know what sucked? It's at the end of the 1666. Like the last scene is all the people just kind of like bummed out. They're all walking away after she's hung and they're like, oh, the fun's over.
Yeah,
we love watching
weird.
teenage girls get hung.
It's almost like they were really amped up, and then once she died, they were almost like...
back to normal life.
I felt like they were almost like, damn, maybe we shouldn't have did that so fast.
No, I think it was more like, damn, back to normal church life. The fun's over. The witch hunt's over.
Yeah.
What are we going to talk about at dinner tonight? Fuck. We have to talk about religion again.
So as Dina is kind of coming back to her reality, she hears a cop car rolling up, and it all clicks. Sheriff Nick Good is behind the current events just like his ancestor, Solomon Good. We then get the Fier Street title card again with 1994 spray painted over it and a very large Part 2. Nick gets out of the cop car and asks Josh where his sister is, and right before he answers, Dina grabs him and they run off into the woods. Nick draws his gun and chases after him. After a bit of hide and seek in the woods, Dina and Josh manage to get back to the road and steal Nick's cop car. And this is where Dina quickly explains to Josh that what she witnessed in 1666. We also get a cutscene of Nick down in the symbol room conducting the evil ritual and adding names to the wall that would eventually become Shadyside Killers. We then get a shot of the big gooey heart beating thing in the cave, and the Shadyside Killers begin to take form. Josh and Dina return to grown-up Ziggy's house and inform her of everything they have just learned, and she kind of takes it hard. They show some like flashback scenes with Ziggy and Nick from like Camp Nightwing, And they show that fucking part where Nick's being all cryptid with Ziggy about what his dad dropping like some heavy shit onto him. What I brought up on the
Yeah.
part 2. Yeah. And I don't ever remember this little cutscene part, but yeah. So I guess that was what he was talking about.
One thing I don't understand with that is, so with the deal, every generation has to sacrifice somebody. Why Nick Good had to sacrifice somebody twice?
It doesn't say it's every
No,
generation.
it specifically says at one point, every generation, like one person per generation. I think Nick Good says it.
Well,
actually.
I don't know. Maybe because his dad died when he was younger. He wasn't that old. So he was like 17. So maybe his dad died a little earlier than he was supposed to.
Maybe he doesn't have any sons yet to pass it on to. So that's the only thing I could think of, is if he doesn't have any son yet, he has to.
That's got to be a mistake, because you can actually look up. I think Screen Rant did it or something, where they actually used shots from the movie, and they actually put every killer in like what year it said that killer was. And it looks like, because there's way more killers obviously than what we see in these movies, and it looks like about every 10 to 13 years there's a killer. So that's, I don't know, maybe that's just somehow got messed up, but
Maybe they meant every generation, as in like every 10 years.
I don't know. Yeah, so after knocking out a possessed Sam, they hop in the cop car and they go to pick up that mall janitor that Josh helped after Nick Good framed him for spray painting the mall.
It's Martin.
Yep, Martin.
Martin must have got really fucked over by Sheriff Good.
Yeah, they're like, hey, you want to help us go kill Sheriff Nick Good? And he's like, yeah, let me get my coat. No questions asked. Let me get my coat.
Yeah, I'm like, he must have had some serious vendetta going for him to just be like, oh, you want to kill the sheriff? Yeah, hold on.
Yeah, so he calls himself a lead custodial engineer, and that's respectable.
That is a respectable profession.
So they all head back to the mall and begin to set up their trap, and basically what they plan on doing here is they're going to use blood to lure the killers each into a store in the mall, and then lock them in using those like cage things. I don't know what they're called. Little cage things that like close off the store. And then when Nick Good shows up, they are going to dump some of Dina's blood onto him, reopen the store cages, and that will cause the killers to go after Nick and kill him. Boom, mic drop, curse over.
Yeah, that's quite the plan.
That is,
and they
quite
go
the plan.
Full on Home Alone in
They
this
do.
mall.
So this next part is about the only time I actually like Dina. I have to say, I think she delivers a pretty good speech. I liked her speech. She gets everyone ready to face down the Shady Side Killers and Nick Good.
She does
I was
give a
feeling
good
it.
speech, yeah.
She brings
I
up
agree.
pretty much everything that's, she brings
like
up Simon, Kate, Sarah Fier. Like, yeah, it's pretty good.
We've been fucked over for way too long.
Yeah, so they begin to set their trap, and I guess this mall doesn't have any security guards, because this would take a long ass time to set all this shit up. A lot of ropes, pulleys, and black lights, and a lot of glow paint.
Maybe they killed the security guard.
Yeah, maybe that was it. So now everyone is all in their spots and ready to go. Ziggy and the janitor Martin get caught by Officer Kopinski, who, if you don't remember, Dina took his gun in part 1, and then he was in part 2 as the guy who was like kissing teenage Nick Good's ass for some reason.
Yeah, you're going to be my boss one day.
Yeah. So he shows up, and Dina and Josh then get discovered by his partner, who's unnamed. I don't know who the fuck he is. And I would say they probably should have hid the fucking cop car. They just left the stolen Nick Good cop car out front of the mall. Pretty easy to find.
They were so excited to get to that Home Alone plan they had that they just forgot.
So Kopinski is calling it in on his radio, and fucking Milkman comes behind him and stabs him in the back of the neck with an ice pick. Milkman, I feel like Milkman always has a different weapon. In part 2, he had a big ass
like
butcher
the
knife.
Butcher knife. I was a fan of the butcher knife because he's totally the Michael Myers killer.
Yeah, and you know how half his face is burnt? That's a little homage to Freddy Krueger.
Hmm.
Yeah. So Kopinski's partner shoots Milkman like 7 fucking times. He does a Michael Myers turnaround.
He does.
Definitely takes it just like Michael Myers. And Milkman slowly turns around and stabs the officer to death with the ice pick. So we then see all of our main characters take their places by the store entrances, prepared to slam the cages shut when the time comes. All the killers slowly start heading in each store's direction, and this is where we finally get a detailed view of the motherfucking grifter.
God, that dude's terrifying.
So he is the guy in the flashbacks. They're super quick, but he's wearing like the metal mask and he's like drowning a woman in a lake. This is our, like, every other time we've seen him is the same shot, and it's pretty much what, from like his chest up, and it's even hard to see that.
It's him in the water, and it's just like an overhead shot. And this is the first time we actually get to see him, like how big he is, what he's dressed like, what his mask even looks like from not looking above. Man, this guy needs his own movie.
Oh yeah.
He's fucking terrifying. I think he's the scariest looking one. And it's a shame that we don't get to see him doing a bunch of killing.
So he basically has like this long, it's like really long metal mask, and it just has like eye holes in it. That's all it has.
It's like a squared horse's face. I don't know. Like at first, when I first seen it, I thought it was like an old like plague doctor's mask.
Kind
in
of, yeah,
metal,
kind of has that.
but it's like a fat version of that. Like if an old plague doctor mask was allergic to bees and got stung by a bunch.
The horse face killer. But yes,
He only kills horse girls.
so he's got this mask, and he is wearing like a nice long sleeve button up shirt, and it's like he has a fancy plaid vest and tie. He has a nice pair of slacks and business shoes, but he's like covered in blood. He is like a Wall Street businessman killer.
And he's fucking massive, too.
Yeah, he's so
He's like
fucking
7
tall.
foot tall.
If I were Josh, I'd be pissing my pants.
Yeah.
Like, I feel bad that
Yeah.
Josh, this probably the shortest dude in the whole little group here, this is the killer he got. And, you know, Josh is like, we've never seen the grifter yet. It's the first time we've seen him. So if I was Josh, I'd be like, oh, fuck.
Well, Josh is probably actually the only one who knows about the grifter. Because remember, he does all the research. This whole movie wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Josh's knowledge on all these cases. So he's probably aware of what he looks like, but he is probably like, oh fuck, I forgot about that guy. Holy shit.
So, well, one thing is the article probably didn't describe how fucking huge this guy is. But do you know when the grifter killed all these women was 1901. Way back in the day.
Yeah, that's quite a time ago.
But yeah, this guy, I wish he was in more of the other movies. Like, I wish that we seen him more than just this.
Yeah, I think that he was by far one of the scariest characters. He should have been in the movie more. I think if they didn't put him in the movie, in one of the movies more, it should have been because they were going to give him his own movie. He deserves it.
So they start dropping the cage doors, and they manage to lock the Nightwing, Skull Mask, the Grifter, and the Milkman into the stores, but no Ruby Lane yet. So Nick Good shows up and is confronted by Ziggy, and he walks up like close to her, and she pulls this little thin rope, which dumps a bucket of blood all over him. We then see the group begin to pull the cages back up and release the killers. Nick figures out pretty quickly what is going on here, and he grabs Ziggy as a hostage. He yells for Dina to do something, or Ziggy will die with him. And this is such like a good family play right here.
Did you catch that buck 120 Dina cuts
Yeah.
her hand with?
Yeah.
Gold Ghostface knife.
Ghostface knife. I don't know if it's the 120 because it looked a little shorter.
I think it's the buck 120 because I know how much of a horror fan the director
Janiac.
was, and she sprinkles throughout all of these movies, pays homages to different horror movies, so I don't think that was on accident. I think it was on purpose.
Yeah, I believe that's the same knife he had when he killed the girl in the very beginning of part 1. He had the same knife.
It's funny, ever since that I had purchased that knife for our host over here for Christmas one year, now I recognize that all the time. Like anytime, it's actually been used in quite a few horror movies since Scream.
It's on the cover of a Friday the 13th.
Yeah. It's even before Scream. So it's like when you buy a car and you start seeing that car everywhere. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I loved that they threw that in there.
So Skull Mask runs up behind him and stabs him in the back, and this causes Ziggy to break free and run off. Milkman catches her and throws her to the ground while Nick fights off Skull Mask. Trying to act fast in order to save Ziggy, Dina picks up Skullface. I wrote Skullface. Skull. Fuck, what's his fucking name? It's not Skullface.
I thought it was
Skull Mask.
Skull Mask.
Skull Mask. Not, I got Ghostface and Skull Mask fucking combined. I like it. Skullface.
Yeah, good old Skullface.
So yeah, they grab Skullface's knife and cuts her hand, allowing her blood to spill out on the floor and immediately getting the killer's attention. Nick jumps up and runs away like a little bitch.
Yeah, he's scared as fuck.
He takes off down a backroom hallway. Dina chases after him. Ziggy, Josh, and Martin lock themselves in a store. Now, one thing I gotta say is Nick Good is really scared here. And his reaction was surprising to me because Nick Good in 1978 wasn't like this. So I would say Nick Good in 1978 was pretty brave considering the situation.
Well, I think Nick Good in 1978 knew that he was protected. Like, he knew, he called all this on, he knew who was going to turn, and he knew it was only going to kill Shady Siders. So he knew no matter what happened that he didn't have anything to worry about. This is the first time he's like, oh shit, these killers that I and my family have been creating are now coming after me.
Good point. Why don't he just take the fucking shirt off?
Because that would make too much sense.
He could have gotten the shirt off faster than it took him to run away.
He can't take his police uniform off. He's on duty. He could get in trouble for that. He's the sheriff.
Yeah.
His brother might reprimand him for that.
Yeah, so Dina figures out that the great floor in the hallway leads down to the cave system, and that is probably where bitch boy Nick ran off to. So she chases after him. While Dina is hunting Nick in the cave, Josh comes up with a good idea for dealing with the killers in the food court. They grab the super soakers with blood and each spray the killers with it, causing the killers to go after each other. As the milkman is walking towards them, the grifter comes up and fucking choke slams him across the mall. When he picks the milkman up, you really get a scale of how fucking big the grifter is.
The milkman's big. He's like Michael Myers big.
And he looks like he's like 5 foot at this point next to this guy.
This guy's pretty massive.
And in the next scene, you see Nightwing next to the grifter, and even Nightwing looks small.
Who's the biggest killer at this point? Yeah.
Yeah, and even he looks small to the grifter.
Yeah, this guy's terrifying. I love this whole, the killers throwing down scene. I wish we would have got to see more of it.
Oh, it's awesome.
My only complaint is that I feel like they cut it short.
But Nightwing tries to take him down with his axe, and the next part is, like we were just saying, pretty awesome. All the killers just kind of go at it with each other. But while this awesomeness is going on, Josh sees Sam get free from her restraints and run into the tunnel with Dina and Nick. After a few minutes, we see that the killers have all killed each other. There are cut off arms and legs, puddles of blood everywhere, but they know it's only a matter of time before they are able to form back together. So then, entering into the food court comes little Billy Barker with his bat and Ruby Lane. Josh picks up Nightwing's axe and delivers a massive blow to Ruby Lane's back, but she ducks the next one and gets him in the belly with her blade.
Good thing he's a little chubby. I don't think that little shaving blade got deep enough to get anything major.
No, he seemed all right later on.
Yeah, he's got an extra couple inches of protection.
So meanwhile, in the cave, possessed Sam attacks Dina from behind. They wrestle around on the ground for a bit before Dina slams Sam's head into a rock, knocking her out. Ruby Lane is on top of Josh, trying to cut his neck with a razor, when suddenly Ziggy shoots her in the back of the head. Nick then stabs Dina in the stomach with the Skull Mask's knife, and he then gets on top of her. He puts the knife to her throat, and he tells her that he is basically going to frame her for killing her girlfriend, friends, and even her own brother.
And that they're going to give him a fucking medal.
What a son of a bitch, man.
Yeah, this guy's terrible.
Dina then puts his hand on the big gooey heart thing, and Nick gets a vision of every single Shady Side death ever. And it's fucking awesome.
Then we get which we got this in one shot. I don't think I know I had it in my notes, but I don't know if I mentioned it, where you actually get to see a lot of the people who were killed, a lot of the Shady Siders who were killed in the cave. I thought that scene was awesome.
Yeah. So what happens during this shot is what they do is they take essentially every fucking kill from the whole trilogy, and you get it all in one, like 15 second, 20 second shot. And it's like, you can't get any better than that as a finale where they go back and show you all the awesomeness. They know why people are watching these movies is because they have awesome kills.
No.
And they literally are like, hey, remember all this cool shit that you've seen this whole trilogy? Here's it all compiled together. Nice and neat.
It was really good to put it in this movie too, because this movie had a large lack of killing. There wasn't a whole lot of kills in this movie, so it was a really good time to remind us of all the awesomeness that happened.
Thank you for that.
And then all the Shady Siders that have been killed, all their like rotting bodies surrounding Nick Good, I thought was fucking awesome looking.
Yeah, so then Sarah Fier starts repeating to Nick what she told Solomon before he hung her. And Nick is, of course, freaked out by this. He starts seeing the Good curse's victims all around her. He tries to run in different directions until he is eventually confronted by Sarah Fier herself, where she then possesses Dina's body and stabs him through the fucking eye. And that is the end of Nick Good. And as this happens, we see that right before all the killers attack Ziggy, Martin, and Josh, they vanish. Dina, of course, goes straight for Sam. She is finally back to normal. They start looking for an exit from the cave. They find the symbol room, where all the names are carved onto the wall have now vanished, along with the symbol in the floor. They find a set of steps that leads them to the very nicely furnished home of Nick Good. They exit out of the door to find themselves in a fancy Sunnyvale neighborhood. Nick's neighbors are out in their front yard and happen to see Dina and Sam and are very confused by this. The husband gets in his car. He backs out of his driveway, only to immediately get T-boned by a fucking garbage truck.
What was it, the husband?
Yeah.
Oh man, I thought they shot to a different house, or maybe the mansion that they were in. I thought it was Nick Good's brother, Mayor Good, getting hit in a car.
No, it's not. It's even on the kill list. He's just some random guy in Sunnyvale.
It would have been better if they had.
I agree.
Mayor Good getting hit by a fucking bus right after that. But Dan was the good family living nice, and they're
Oh, yeah.
fucking super, like, it was just like the family mansion. It was really nice.
I mean, yeah, I mean, that's, not only do they, one's the fucking mayor, one's the fucking sheriff, their whole families have ran this place
Yeah,
for so long, but
330 years they've
of,
been running this place.
of accumulated wealth.
Yeah.
This isn't just the money Nick Good made. This is the money everybody before him made, too, so.
Solomon, looking back at it's probably like, you know what, it was worth it.
I mean, for most of the Goods, it was worth it. They
Yeah.
lived a great life their whole entire
We got
life.
330 years or 328 years of being rich as fuck and having everything we ever wanted.
Yeah.
That's a solid deal with the devil. I mean, 300 years is that's a good bit of time to get
Yeah.
out of a deal.
Yeah, it's great for, I don't even know how many lived through it. It showed a bunch of different ones because it shows
Yeah.
like a bunch of different Goods. They all look like Nick Good, but of course it shows a bunch of them.
I think
Yeah, they had it made.
so. I think the average generation, I actually looked this up and I was doing math one time on exponential growth of like your direct ancestors. So the average generation spans about 25, I think it was 26 years. So that's about 4 generations per 100 years. So you're thinking 4, 8, 12, about 13 generations of goods that they've went through.
Well,
That's a lot of and they actually show it on the direct descendants on
Oh, yeah.
on that on
the
that
tree.
painting.
Yeah, the tree. Well, I noticed because they only have Solomon's name and no one else has a name. There's just like a silhouette.
Yeah, and
there.
I think that's all the people that it was directly passed to. Because 13 generations would be tens of thousands of people. You don't realize how many. Like I said, I realize when you're doing exponential growth, like 10 generations up, you have over 1,000 direct descendants from you. But anyway, yeah, a lot of fucking people. That was quite a good deal.
Yeah, so it looks like Sunnyvale's good luck streak is immediately over.
And guess what? Dina finally gets to take Sam out to that fur burger dinner she promised. Guy gets to take her on that date, that 2-for-1 perky breast subs. Been waiting to give her.
We then get to hear a news report about how new evidence continues to surface implicating Union County Sheriff Nick Good as the Sunnyvale serial killer. We get a small time jump to see that things are looking up for Josh and Dina, who definitely seemed much closer now. We also see Ziggy visit Nurse Lane with the journal that Nurse Lane had at Camp Nightwing. Dina drops Josh off at school and then meets Sam at Sarah Fier's gravesite. Dina carves Fier's name and an inscription into the rock where she is buried so that it is no longer an unmarked grave, and her and Sam share a kiss. And just when we think it is over, the camera slowly pans across the cave with the spellbook still laying on the ground, when suddenly a set of unidentified hands reaches in and grabs the book, and that is the end of the Fear Street trilogy for now.
That ending was such an awesome ode to R.L. Stine. That was such a R.L. Stine ending to a story. I think they did that just for him.
Very Goosebumps and Fear Street.
Yeah. He always had those like surprise twist endings or not over yet endings. And I thought that was the perfect way to wrap it up.
So to go back to what you said about her mom, Sarah Fier's mom, being a witch. And the reason I thought that was really interesting is because when Sarah Fier is getting ready to get hung and she tells that shit to Solomon, she curses him because she says, I'm going to show everyone what you did. And that is what the nosebleed stuff is. They say every time somebody has the nosebleed, they get those visions that they think it's the witch like trying to scare them, but really it's Sarah Fier trying to show people what the goods did. If she wasn't some kind of like natural witch or able to have that in her blood, she
Oh.
wouldn't have been able to just curse somebody just out of nowhere.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think it's very subtle, but they very much show that Sarah Fier is a witch. She has a little bit of that witch in her. She's different. And they make it a very big thing that she's different from other people. There's something about her. Even before everything happens, there's like comments made, like by what's his name, Mad Thomas,
Mm-hmm.
about her having evil in her and her being up to no good. And then she gets in the witch's house and she finds the book, and the witch even makes some weird comments to her about the devil senses you. If you're not careful, he's going to get inside you and eat you alive from the inside out. I think the witch sensed that, and I think the scene of them talking about her mom was them showing that her mom passed that on to her.
Yeah, I think it's very overlooked that people don't realize that, Sarah Fier is not a witch, officially.
She's not a bad witch, but she is a witch.
Yeah, but she doesn't even really know that about herself, and she's able to cast this curse upon the goods that go along with their deal with the devil that's like now attached to that for here on out. It never goes away. It never stops.
I think that's why also whenever they go into the witch's hut, that she is attracted to that book of shadows.
Yeah.
Where everybody else is looking for the berries, that book of shadows catches her eyes and she goes straight for it.
Yeah, I thought it was a really cool way to sum up the trilogy, and I do wonder who grabbed the book. You got an idea who do you think grabbed the book?
No, I really didn't put any thought into that because I think that they didn't have a person in mind. I think that they just wanted to do an ode to R.L. Stine, and that's how all his stories finishes. And I don't know if they even have an idea of who grabbed the book.
My opinion, I think Nurse Lane went and got the book. She knows where that cave is. She knows all about this curse. She knows all about the good. Like she knew about all this stuff that was going on because she was obviously so into it from what happened with her daughter Ruby Lane, and she would have known easily how to get to that cave. She would have known that.
I would say, but I'm pretty sure it was White Hands. But I'm not sure if you can tell. I didn't pay enough.
Yeah, I did. I paused it, slowed it down. It's a white person.
It would make sense for Dina because of how much Dina and Sarah Fier had in common, that maybe Dina has some of that witch in her too. But yeah, as far as it being White Hands, it's not a whole lot of people that know about the cave. You know what? It could have been older Ziggy.
That was my second. That's my second.
That's probably my thought, is her.
Yeah, my number one pick's Nurse Lane, but I could see Ziggy doing it too. The only thing that puts Nurse Lane over Ziggy for me is Nurse Lane wasn't really scared to get involved with figuring this shit out. After what happened at the camp, Ziggy's very hesitant to get involved with this.
Well, I think it's just because she doesn't know. Like, she still thinks it's this witch Sarah Fier and there's no way to stop her. But she, as a child, when all this started and towards the end of the movie, she's very fearless.
Yeah, she's
different.
badass.
She's different from most people. That stuff doesn't scare her.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good, strong female characters in this trilogy.
Yeah, agreed.
And I like all of them except for Dina. All the rest of them are fucking great. Like, I have no issue with the rest of them. I think that they're all awesome. I think Ziggy, when she was the main character of the second one, was phenomenal. And I wish we could have gotten a strong female character lead like her in 1994. I just thought that Dina was just too negative. They just made her a little too
Yeah,
negative.
I hated her in 1994.
She was better in part 2 of 94. I
Yeah,
will
yeah,
give her that.
absolutely. Yeah, the third part 3, I think she definitely it's better. And I hated her. Hated her, and it's really the first half of part 1. I mean, really the whole movie she sucks. I don't know. I think they make her so bad in the beginning of part 1, like it sets it in stone for you. Like you hate that character throughout. If you're one of the people who hate the character like us, she's so bad in that first 20 minutes of the movie, where the way she's acting towards Sam and she's acting towards her brother and she's super cynical and she's a bitch to everybody, that you just have it in your mind the rest of that movie. Like you've already decided you don't like her character.
All right, so we're going to talk about some Easter eggs in this trilogy. So R.L. Stein's book, The Wrong Number, is in the very first scene of the first movie. And this was actually the 5th book written in the Fear Street series. It's one of the more popular ones. The scene that it is in is the very first scene where the girl Heather is working in the bookstore. She's ringing the book up for the lady. The lady is buying this particular book. They show the cover, which is the exact cover of the real book. And the lady says like it's like lowbrow horror. Like she basically says the book sucks. And they put that line in there because that was actually what the reviews on that book was when it came out in real life.
Mm.
Yeah. So we also see in the same bookstore a bunch of books written by an author named Robert Lawrence, which is what the initials stand for in R.L. Stein. And if you take a closer look at the bookshelves, you will see books by some other notable authors from the 90s as well, including Stephen King, Dean Koontz, and Jackie Collins. So they did a really good job kind of putting in there what was popular back then.
Yeah, I actually read about the R.L. Stein books being in the movie after I think I watched the first 3. I always thought that was really fucking cool. Like that's something that not a lot of people know, but if you did have a really sharp eye and you were a fan of those books, that's a really, really cool Easter egg that they put in there.
Yeah, the skull mask costume is a homage to the cover of R.L. Stein's book, Halloween Night 2. And of course, Ghostface from Scream. So Halloween Night 2 is basically has like a bunch of skull kind of ghost characters on the cover of it. So basically they took that and then because they knew they wanted him to be Ghostface, combined the two, and then we get the what I have now named Skullface.
Skullface.
And that is how we got him.
Good old Skullface.
Yep. So Camp Nightwing is actually from the Fear Street book Lights Out, which is the 12th book in the series. So in Lights Out, Camp Nightwing is the whole entire setting for this Fear Street book. It's really cool.
Yeah, I love that they took things from different Fear Street books. I think I actually found out about the books being in the movie, the first fact that you mentioned, because I looked up how much of this was based off the actual stories and that they were able to take certain things from certain stories and put them in here. That was really cool.
Yeah, another thing they did was they used a bunch of names. Pretty much all the major character names in this trilogy are all major character names from the book series, but they are different characters, because Dina is the main character of another book. I don't remember the name of it. And obviously she is a different character in a different situation, but with the same name. So yeah, they created original characters for the movie, but they did go back and use names from the series. So it's cool because it makes it original, but it also makes it part of the Fear Street. That was a good way to include the books.
Yeah, I loved hearing that because that's why I looked this up in the beginning, because I was like, well, did they just use Fear Street as a money grab for a title? And it has nothing to do with any of the books, but the fact that they were able to take characters and certain stories and killers and settings from different books and put them all in one story, I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, it sounds like the original trilogy, it was kind of a money grab because, like we said, it was really a slasher version of Scream. There's going to be a trilogy of just three. It's pretty much going to be like Scream 1, 2, and 3. And it didn't sound like they had a lot to include about the books.
That's like such a fucking money grab, too. We're going to copy these popular movies, and then we're going to steal a popular book title, and we're going to combine the two and see how much money we can make.
Yeah, I'm so glad that it got into the hands of, one, a fan of the books, and two, a horror fan.
Yeah, that paid homage to a lot of really great movies. And like we talked about last episode, did it in a way that paid homage, that wasn't just ripping off of stuff, but it was very clear that she was paying homage to these different horror movies.
So the scenes where the killers emerge from the big gooey blob thing that beats like a heart actually takes its inspiration from the resurrection of Uncle Frank from Hellraiser. Why they put it in there like that?
I mentioned that last episode. I think. Yeah,
I actually came across that
cool.
finally, because I've done so much research that I thought I'd kind of came across, 90% of all the little things that they sprinkled in there that are really paying homage to all these major horror movies. But I did manage to find this one last minute.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah, when I mentioned that last week, I thought it may have just been an accident, but
nope,
it's really cool
it's
that
on
it
purpose.
Was done on purpose.
So, in January, it was announced that Netflix was officially doing a new Fear Street movie. We do not know a ton of details yet, but we do know that it will be based on R.L. Stine's 1992 Fear Street book, The Prom Queen. The story does take place in Shadyside, and it's basically about a mysterious murderer who is killing off, one by one, the 5 prom queen candidates, and a character named Lizzie McVeigh attempts to stop it. So we got a slasher. We do not know if Janiak is involved yet. Hopefully she is. She did say that the next Fear Street she wanted to do was going to be a 1950s slasher. And the prom queen thing could very well take place in 1950s. So this could be good.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, like I said, I know Lee Janiak is a huge fan of the show. Being as big into horror movies as she is very obvious. Why wouldn't she listen? So yes, Lee, please. I call her Lee because we're pretty much like friends
and bros.
Yeah, please get in on this. I'll have my wife cook dinner for you.
Yes, and we'll watch slasher.
Yeah,
sounds fitting. So ratings and kill count. The total kills in this movie is 19. It's pretty high, actually.
Yeah, that's a little skewed, I would imagine, by the replaying of some of the other kills from the other movies.
No. Nope, didn't include those.
Well, okay. Now, so it's a little skewed by the 12 kids that are killed in the church, then. I take it. Just a little bit, because that was one of my only complaints about this movie. And not as much a complaint, because it is a 1600s witch movie.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of murders that happen in those movies, but compared to the other ones, it was one of the things I wish we would have gotten a little more of. So when I heard you say 19, I was like, that's a lot. That's a lot of people.
So we have the 10 unnamed children who had their eyes ripped out by the pastor. You have Henry Fier, who had his eyes ripped out by the pastor. Constance Berman, who had her eyes ripped out by the pastor.
He rinsed her eyes out in the name of God.
It's a really strong water pressure.
It's like that's what they did when you watch porn. I guess it wasn't porn in the 1600s.
Nope, probably not.
That's what happened when you watch porn in the 60s though. They rinsed your eyes out with the with the water of the Lord, holy water itself.
So number 4 is Pastor Cyrus Miller himself. Widow Mary, who is the hag/witch. You have Sarah Fier, who got hung on a noose. You have Officer Knipsky, who was stabbed through the back by the milkman.
Thank God.
Officer Kuzo, who was stabbed in the stomach by the milkman. Sheriff Nick Good, who was stabbed in the eye by Dina/Sarah Fier. And number 10, unnamed Sunnyvale man ran over by unknown persons with a truck. Unnamed Sunnyvale man is all we have for that last guy. We don't know. It wasn't the mayor because they would have named him. So it's just some guy in Sunnyvale. Yeah, so trilogy killer kill counts. Skull face. He's got 15. Racked up 15 kills.
Damn. He's doing good for himself.
Tommy Slater/Nightwing Killer, 14.
Damn, I would have thought for sure he had more kills than anybody else.
Pastor Cyrus Miller got 12. Milkman got 11. Ruby Lane, 7. Billy Barker got 3. So that is our...
You know, the pastor was technically the first ever.
Yep.
And I get why they didn't show him in other parts of the movie. I don't know. I guess it wouldn't have it wouldn't have thrown it off. As
they do show him.
He should have been one of the killers. He was the first one. The reason I say that is because he's super fucking creepy looking.
Yeah, the only time they do show him in 94, and it's only by the sketch of him.
Yeah, well, yeah, they did it by sketch, I guess, because they didn't want to throw you off when you were watching the third one. But I think you would have had to have had a really, really sharp eye to put the story together, even knowing that if you recognized him from part 3 in the very beginning.
Maybe he didn't come back because he was a man of God. Maybe God plucked him out of the curse.
No, I don't think that's how curses work.
We don't know.
Well, I do know.
Okay.
I do know. So one of those other people had to have been religious.
I don't know.
One of them was a fucking kid. He's in the eyes of religion. His soul is supposed to be clean. And he got stuck.
Maybe
guy was like, this kid was a shithead. This kid didn't listen to his parents. He was already dabbling in drugs.
Yeah, I would have rather have gotten the pastor than the kid. But, it is what it is.
I don't know. The kid is not as creepy, but the scene of him beating his fucking sibling's head in, I do love that scene.
Favorite kill. Is it my turn? Am I up?
You are up.
So this was a hard one because we talked about there's not like a ton of kills here. I went with when all the killers killed each other. That's a kill, and I like it.
I feel like that was cheating.
How?
Because they're already dead, and they don't die.
No, there's no rules saying that they can't be dead.
None of them die. They can't die.
Their
bodies just form back together. Just.
Oh, that sounded awful.
It's goo that goos back into form.
I'm going with the killers killing each other. That was my favorite kill. That was awesome.
If it would have counted as a kill, it would have been in the kill count.
Well,
your own kill count, by the way.
I'm going with that.
All right. Well, so I am going to say it's hard because there's not a lot.
It is.
Sheriff Good was probably my favorite kill that we've seen just because I fucking hated him. And after he made that speech, they were going to give him a fucking medal for it. Like getting to see him die. But his death scene wasn't that awesome. So, although we do get to see him die, I went with the pastor. Because his fucking eyes are gouged out. He's super fucking creepy. And then he takes a pitchfork through the abdomen. Good stuff. Takes his feet right out from under him. So, yeah, the pastor is my pick.
All right. So, film rating. So, I'll just to refresh, I gave 94 a 4.6. I gave 78 a 5. And I gave 1666 a 4. Yep. So I feel like this is a good movie. I mean, a 4 is a good movie. I I can't see them topping these slasher movies that were before with the Witch movie. And I don't have any problem with them making a more toned down third movie that they did. I'm fine with that. And because it goes back and it shows us the beginning of everything, that's really what the main important thing about this movie was. And it did that. I don't really need and didn't expect to see a bunch of kills and slasher stuff going on with this one. I liked the story and I loved how they did the 1666 and the 94. Like we got to see the other part of 94 in this, so it's kind of like two movies in one. I like it. I'm totally satisfied with the movie, how it turned out, and I'm totally satisfied with giving it a 4.
So 94, I gave a 4.5. So we were only 1 point off there. Part 2, I gave a 4.9. We were only 1 point off there. So part 3, 1666, I gave a 4.2. Only a 0.2 off there. So we kind of have them in the same ranking, which is interesting because all the ratings and
Are like 1 point off.
we'll know what's interesting about all the ratings that you went off in the beginning of the episode. All of them have them listed as part 2 being the best, part 3 being the second best, and 94 actually being rated a little lower than part 3. We were a little opposite of that. We thought it went 78, 94, and then 66.
Yeah, I don't have any hang-ups with saying that 1666 is, if I had to pick a least favorite, it would be my least favorite. 94 is awesome. I mean, it's totally the 1990s slasher movie.
I wonder if it's the nostalgia thing for us.
It could be.
Because that, like, across the board on all the ratings that you read,
Yeah.
they were all really close, but they all had 1666 rated higher than 1994, and I have 94 ranked a little bit higher, as do you. I gave this a 4.2. I loved how they wrapped the storyline up. The story as a whole has so many moving parts, and they were able to connect the dots and fill the holes, what I thought was brilliantly. What I thought was really fucking good. The first time seeing this, I was completely thrown for a loop with the whole Solomon character and him being the bad guy. I mean, up until this point, I thought Sarah Fier was for sure the witch who cursed this town. They built that up through the first 2 movies. And finding out that it was not that way at all was the fact that they could do 2.5 movies without tipping their hat to the twist. I thought was really good. I thought they did the 1600 witch feel of the movie, being able to jump right back in the 90s without a hitch. That was really good. The acting and cinematography were great. I think it's a testament to the actors that they were able to act in some of them in 3 different timelines, some of them in 2 different timelines, and be able to do it so good. I feel like that would be really, really difficult, especially the 1600s. Like,
Yeah.
if you're going to throw me in the 1600s and make me speak with an old English accent, I feel like that would be really fucking difficult. And almost all the main actors from part 1 and part 2 are in some part of 1600, and I thought they all did good. My only major complaint with the movie was the lack of kills, and like I said earlier, I get that. This is a 1600s witch movie. This isn't a slasher. It's not going to be a super high body count. But overall, I loved the entire series, and I thought this wrapped everything up in a fantastic way.
You know what's cool about this trilogy, and you kind of just reminded me, is every one of these movies has a cool twist end. Or not maybe necessarily end, but a cool twist towards the end.
Yeah.
You get the first one where you think they've solved the problem and now Sam is possessed and C. Berman has called them on the phone.
Yeah.
And then you get The second one, where it turns out that C. Berman isn't Cindy Berman, it's actually Ziggy Berman. And then the third one, where you find out that Nick Good is actually the one who has summoned all this. This isn't Sarah Fier, the curse of Sarah Fier. This is really the curse of the Goods.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that all three of those were, and the book at the end, were fantastic homages to R.L. Stine and the way he ended his stories.
Yeah, definitely some good twists. Like, maybe M. Night needs to relearn how to do his twists. His twists have been lacking as of late.
Yeah, M. Night, you need to call R.L. Stine and have a conversation.
So my trilogy rating, of course, part 2, part 1, part 3. I remember saying when we first started this that I wasn't 100% sure where exactly what my trilogy rating was going to be. And this was going to be my first time watching these movies and really evaluating all the details of them and coming up with a solid what I could say, because I always had a problem going between 94 and 78. And I am very comfortable with saying 2, 1, 3.
Yeah, it's 2, 1, 3 for me too. I think 1994 is just very nostalgic. I think that probably bumped it up quite a few points for the both of us and anybody our age. 2 was almost a perfect movie for me. I couldn't find hardly anything to complain about. That's a fucking awesome movie that pays homage in a great way to our 1970s slashers, 80s slashers. The whole camp feel to it was great. And then last, but definitely not least, 1666, I thought was great. I think it's a great movie. I gave it a 4.2. That's a really high rating.
It is great. I
thought all of them were just good.
It's just my opinion, man. The subject matter can't compete with how fun the other two are.
If only we had politicians to vote between like this. Like 3 really good picks. So you got to pick one that's instead we get what is it, a
turd sandwich and a giant douche.
Giant douche and a shit sandwich. Turd sandwich.
Yep.
Yeah. If only we could get nice shiny objects to pick from like this great trilogy.
All right, so last one being favorite killer of the trilogy. This was hard. This was really difficult. But if I had to narrow down the one that I had the most fun watching, it would be Tommy Slater, the Nightwing Killer, because for one, we get a whole, it's kind of unfair. We get a whole movie of him killing. So that is a huge advantage, but he is so fucking brutal, man. Like, he is one of the most brutal out of all the killers. So definitely my favorite. It's really difficult to, if we would have got a Grifter movie though, this could easily be a different answer. But Nightwing is an awesome killer.
Well, you just stole my notes, almost word for word. The Grifter was the scariest by far.
Yeah.
I really wish we'd have got more of them, but I got to give it to the Nightwing Killer because of his kills are by far the best, and they're fucking brutal. Like, every one of his kills are brutal as fuck. And he's the second scariest looking one. Before they showed the Grifter, he was the scariest one. So yeah, gotta give it to Nightwing. Until they give the Grifter his own movie.
Well, once again, we thank you guys for listening. We hope you enjoyed this special 3-part trilogy. We did a ton of research to put these episodes together. We had fun. We hope that you guys had fun. We will definitely be covering the new one when it comes out. So, like, as soon as that one drops, episode on it. Please give us a follow or a like if you enjoyed the show. Check out the website. Check out the socials. Tell a friend, a family member, or your favorite Fear Street killer about the show. And we hope to see you next time. Any last words?
Yes, anyone living in Sunnyvale or the Shadyside area, be sure to come out and support the grand opening of our new restaurant, Grindhouse Grubs. we'll be serving the world famous half-price deluxe fur burgers.
My God.
And 2 for 1 on the perky breast subs. And it is said that the first 10 females to the door will get their appetizer salad personally tossed by Chef Dina. You don't want to miss it.
Wow. Party at the Moon Tower.